Hi-ho, everybody. JT Hume here from the worldwide headquarters of the CC and JT Amateur Hour, the worldwide famous headquarters of where production values go to die, obviously, since I just said worldwide twice. Anyway, JT here. In the next recording of the book of Duties Faithfully Executed, there it is, right there on Amazon, right there, zoom, see, pretty cover. I'm reading through this book because I understand that readers like it when writers read and explain their book. So what I'm working my way through here is Duties Faithfully Executed and taking it part by part. And at the end of this, I will be saying things like what I would have done differently, or what I sort of liked, what I wrote when this book was published back in 2013. Yes, almost 10 years ago. 10 years ago at this time, I was pretty much in the deep editing of this book or getting it ready to be published. It's really been fun. So let me get my first book onto the video, and then afterwards we will chat. So, starting the book here, the next section is the high school section, the mandatory high school section of the autobiography, labeled The Missions. When I started my senior year of high school, I planned out 3 missions. Mission 1, I'd do the best academic work of my life. Being in the top 10% of my class wasn't enough for me. A transcript that shined would be needed if I wanted to get a free ride to one of the military academies or East Coast universities. I was motivated too. Financially, Gran and I were squeaking by with her 2 or 3 jobs and my time down at Pop's Hardware. But we did without more often than she deserved. Not only was I going to get that education and do right by her, I was going to leave this podunk town behind me and never come back. Mission 2, win the basketball zone championship. We'd been so close in the previous years and fell short due to pesky bad luck. A twisted ankle, a patch of sweat under the backboard, or some other fluke we had no control over. The breaks never seemed to fall in our direction, but that would change. This being coach's last year, we desperately wanted to send him off with the best memories of his last game. Mission 0, pussy. Lots of pussy. I had a taste of it in my junior year and wanted as much as I could get before graduation. When I left town, I swore to leave a legend. Now you're probably thinking that I blew it there somewhere, but not really. I did do some great work in the classroom, if I say so myself, and had more than a few teachers pushing me towards their own favorite careers. I pulled my grades up and finished in the top 5%, so I basically got to pick my path after high school. You already know where I went to school. I'll skip that for now and talk about the zone championship. Simply put, everything that could go right during the season did go right. I was the captain and point guard, and it seemed I couldn't call a bad play. Our center was a boy giant who dominated the paint, and our forwards were inhumanly fast. We scored at will in the regular season and playoffs, and I mentally cleared a space in the trophy case outside Coach's office. We were destined to win it all, it seems. Teenage boys. Is there a dumber creature in existence? We knew we might possibly meet Monument Prep in the finals, but we didn't give it much thought. Monument was one of those schools that accepted players destined for Division I universities by helping them maintain their academic eligibility. In reality, the teachers taught students how to pass the SAT. Everyone knew, and the school was always under investigation. Their championship from the previous year was vacated due to academic violations, and we were certain they wouldn't be allowed in the tournament this year. Wrong. There they were, waiting for us in the final game. It was brutal. I'd never been in a game where elbows were thrown more often than the damn ball. I took one below my left eye and had to be stitched up at halftime. You can still see the mark whenever the camera gets close, and on the campaign trail, every picture is a close-up, especially during debates. The good news was the Zebras weren't as blind as usual, and Monument lost most of their starters to fouls with 2 minutes to go. Their coach had already been teed up once, and if he looked cross-eyed at a referee again, he'd be watching the rest of the game from the locker room. The bad news is we were gassed, and down by 5 points. Coach took a short time out and pointed me at the huddle, his signal that he wanted me to take charge. I threw my arms across the shoulders of my nearest teammates. Forget that you're tired. Forget the sweat and pain, and forget how pissed off you are. I want you to do one thing and one thing only right now. Look at our cheerleaders. The guys gave me a double take but followed my direction. Our cheerleaders were hot. They were shaking their thing to the crowd, moving and dancing their hearts out. A boy my age at the time could watch them for hours and never get tired. I often did, in fact. Listen, guys, I yelled over the crowd. They believe in us. So do the people in the stands. The team turned to me as one, and I continued, looking each in the eye, and I believe in you. Let's finish this and show them how we do it downtown. I shook their hands and slapped their backs. We smiled stupidly at each other and headed back to court. Nothing else needed to be said. We won. We won big. A politician was born that night. Now, if you're a typical American, you want to hear about Mission Zero Operation Pussy. You want the sordid details and the truth. You want names and video and favorite positions and everything else. We devolved into a nation of voyeurs, and we're not satisfied until we know every gruesome little detail. I'll scratch your dirty little itch. My first girlfriend in high school was also my first girlfriend in middle school and elementary school. She held my hand when I was down on myself and stood by me whenever I got called to the vice principal's office. She hugged me when the tears wouldn't stop and tanned my hide when I deserved it most. I love you, Gran. I wish you were here. It was her daughter that she found at the bottom of the bathtub soon after I was born. Instead of blaming me or that dead soldier lost in a stupid training accident, she kept me close. Old school, she walked with the Lord, but in a positive, loving way. She was the strongest person I ever known and was there whenever the dark times seemed to swallow me up. I suppose I better clarify that a little. I had a great childhood, thanks to Gran, but was still an orphan, unclear as to why I had no parents. My classmates called me all sorts of names and made up twisted stories. So I wasn't kidding about the vice principal's office. When I couldn't solve my problems with my fists, I seemed to sink down on myself and start asking myself those questions. Why are my parents dead? Why am I alive? Will I see them when I'm dead? When will I die? I was 8 years old, for Christ's sakes. Grandma always knew how to reach down into the abyss and pull me up. My life got interesting in my senior year when Graham had to do another kind of pulling, as in pulling me off Jackie Jones, the head cheerleader, and a student body, if you know what I mean. What the hell are you doing, Gran? I yelled in her face. Boy, pull up your pants and follow me out to the truck. Jackie, go home and tell your parents I'm going to call them. But, Mrs. Carson, she sputtered. Gran held up her finger. I am going to call them. You have time to talk to them first. Gran spun and walked away without waiting for an answer. I hopped after her, struggling with my pants around my legs. Days later, I realized I'd left without saying goodbye to Jackie. I climbed into the passenger side of Gran's truck and slammed the door shut. She was in the driver's seat and proceeded to do something she hadn't needed to do for years. She grabbed my ears and twisted it hard towards her. What do you think you were doing in there? Ow, Gran, let go! Pushing her away never let me cross my mind. Answer me! We were fucking! She let go of my ear and backhanded me hard across the cheek. My head bounced off the passenger window and I saw stars. Oh, sweet Jesus. She gathered me in her arms and waited for me to stop shaking. I'm sorry, sweetheart. Damn, you kick like a mule, Gran. I shouldn't have done that. I shouldn't have lost my temper. A light bulb went off. Why did you, Gran? What? I pushed us apart. I've gotten you plenty mad, but that was the first time you did something like that. What happened, Gran? She turned to stare at the windshield and gave me a chance to really look at her for the first time. Her hair seemed grayer and more wrinkles lined her face than I could remember. She'd always been ageless to me, but at that moment I realized I lived with an old woman. It was not a comfortable thought. She took a deep breath. I guess it's time to come clean. About what? Your parents. And she did. She told me everything about them that you've read so far. She pulled no punches, and she was talking to me like an adult. Looking back, I realize now I left something behind in that truck. We sat in silence, each of us lost in our own thoughts. I finally formed the question, so why the anger? She shook her head. I guess I've been holding that back in for years. When I saw you in there making the same mistake they did, I lost it. No excuses, though. I'm truly sorry, boy. I waved her off. Can't blame you, knowing what you know. I'm surprised you haven't had me tied to a tree for years. Don't think I haven't considered the idea. But I need you to do this for me. You go ahead and have your good times. I can't stop you. All I ask is you take reasonable precautions and be safe. You see why I love this woman? Okay, Gren. And stay away from Jackie Jones and her friend. You can do better. Trust me, I watched her grow up and I saw her parents grow up. You don't want that kind of person in your life 10 years from now, especially with you going places and doing things. I was taken aback. You think I'm going somewhere? Gren nodded. I know so. After your mom died, I was ready to raise a little hellion, but you surprised me. Sure, you had troubles, but your heart was always in the right place. You got into fights defending someone I love very much. And when you cried, you cried the same kind of tears that I cried. You have problems, but who doesn't? You're going to set this world on fire, boy. You make me prouder and prouder every day. I took her in my arms and I held her close like a son does when his mother needs him. One more thing about your parents, she whispered. I hated their deed, but I'm grateful too. You made it all worthwhile. Love you, Gran. Love you too, boy. Now let's go home. I got a phone call to make. So that was as I said, that was the typical high school years, wonder years of the autobiography. And I talked about things that I would do right and things I didn't do right. I think what I probably would do more is I probably would have done more detail about the basketball game. Just saying that it was just sort of a slam dunk, pun intended, sort of a slam dunk there right away without filling in the details, without the imagery. I mean, they were down with 5 points, down with just a short time left in the game. What did they do? Did they devolve into what the other team was doing, or did they come together as that team, as it's kind of implied? I probably would have, if I were rewriting the book, I probably would have expanded on that. Things that I got right is I think I got the emotions right between Bruce and his grandmother. Because there's a lot of history there, a lot of emotion there, a lot of passion there. Both of them, seeing each other in ways that they hadn't seen each other before. Bruce seeing his grandmother as well as an old woman, because she's has raised his mother, and now raising him to adulthood. But she's also having to see him, whether she likes it or not, seeing him as an adult, seeing him, not only seeing him, do adult things, but saying, hey, I get it. You're going to do adult things. Just be safe. I can't stop you, but please be safe. And that's an important message. I think that kids at that age, all of them need to hear at that time, recognizing that, we as parents and we as grandparents, we don't want to see kids as adults, but it happens. The time comes. So I think that was a time for both of them to do that. So otherwise, that chapter was okay. It was tight. I think the language was appropriate for the character. So what do you think? Do you think I could have done a better job on that chapter? Let me know. As I always say, the links to everything is down there. You can do comments down there. I'm going to be rejiggering the website at www.carsonhume.com, so it has its own video page. So I'm going to be listing these in order that they're done. And again, if you have anything that you'd like to do, if you think there's anything I can do different, please let me know. Until then, JT Hume here at the Worldwide Headquarters of the CC and JT Amateur Hour, the worldwide famous podcast where we writers help writers write. Y'all take care and have a wonderful, wonderful week.